Did you know your business could be affected by the new extended producer responsibility rules? Until recently, in the EU, textile producer responsibility requirements were fragmented across member states, with only a few countries operating dedicated textile EPR schemes. The revised Waste Framework Directive introduces for the first time harmonized minimum requirements for EPR schemes covering textile, textile-related and footwear products across all member states. Hello and welcome to a new episode of TEIMAS Workshops. I'm Perla Gándara, and in today's session we'll explore the new extended producer responsibility requirements for textiles and footwear in the European Union. In this session, we'll focus on three main areas of EPR: its context, evolution, timeline, and impact on producers. And there is a core idea that I want you to keep in mind throughout this session. This framework will transform end-of-life management into a core operational and financial obligation. Why are we talking about textiles? The textile sector plays a central role in the European economy, supporting around 1.3 million jobs and 200,000 businesses. Yet its scale also means its environmental footprint is substantial. According to European Commission assessments of consumer footprints, textiles are the fourth most impactful consumption category in Europe. Also, they rank third for water and land use and fifth for raw material consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. This has raised important questions about how products are designed, consumed, collected and managed at the end of their lives. So, to address these challenges and support the transition towards a more circular economy, the European Union has introduced a range of measures, including Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR. And what is EPR? It's an environmental policy approach that extends a producer's responsibility for a product beyond the point of sale and into its end-of-life stage. Within EU legislation, EPR is defined under Article 8 of the Waste Framework Directive and has become one of the main policy instruments to implement the polluter pays principle and improve resource efficiency. Under the revised framework, producer contributions are intended to cover the costs necessary to ensure separate collection, sorting, preparation for use and recycling of textile waste, as well as information and reporting obligations. However, EPR is also designed to encourage producers to improve product design and reduce waste generation, as well as to increase the reuse and recycling of materials. By linking end-of-life costs to products placed on the market, EPR creates incentives to make them more durable, repairable and resource efficient. Over the past decades, EPR has become a well-established instrument across the European Union. In fact, it's already applied to several product categories such as packaging, batteries, electrical and electronic equipment, etc. The textile sector is now following the same path. And how did we get here? A key turning point came in 2020 with the adoption of the Circular Economy Action Plan under the European Green Deal. For the first time, textiles were identified as one of the priority value chains requiring specific action. For this reason, the Commission announced the development of a dedicated EU strategy for sustainable and circular textiles. This strategy was published back in 2022 and it sets a bold vision for the year 2030. By then, every textile product on the EU market should be durable, repairable and recyclable. On top of that, they must be made largely from recycled fibers and free from hazardous substances. The strategy also acknowledged that improving the sustainability of textiles would require stronger measures at the end-of-life stage. It therefore paved the way for the introduction of mandatory EPR requirements, which were later incorporated into the revised Waste Framework Directive. Another important milestone followed on the 1st of January 2025, when member states became required to establish separate collection systems for textiles. But collection alone wasn't enough. In order to cover the costs of sorting, reusing and recycling all that growing waste, a dedicated financing mechanism was needed. This led to the revision of the Waste Framework Directive, which entered into force last October. For the very first time, all member states are required to establish extended producer responsibility schemes. In other words, producers are now responsible for the end-of-life management of the products they placed on the market. Textile EPR should therefore be understood as one element of a broader regulatory framework. It also includes the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products regulation, digital product passports, restrictions on the destruction of unsold products, and information requirements. And after all this, what has changed? The revised directive explicitly aims to move textile management higher up the waste hierarchy, prioritizing waste prevention, preparation for reuse, and reuse before recycling. The new rules establish a common framework across the European Union, while allowing member states to determine how their national schemes will operate in practice. Producers will be required to finance the cost covered by national Textile EPR schemes. Financial contributions will be established under each member state's implementation framework. The scope extends beyond garments and footwear, covering textile-related and footwear products listed in Annex 4C of the directive. Now, you might wonder, does this only apply to companies established within the European Union? Not at all. The new rules also capture businesses established outside the EU that sell directly to consumers in member states, including through online sales. So whether a company is based in Paris or on the other side of the world, placing covered textile products on the EU market can bring EPR obligations with it. And are textile EPR schemes already active? The revised Waste Framework Directive entered into force in October 2025, but the new textile EPR requirements will be introduced gradually over the coming years. Depending on the member state, producer financing obligations already started in October 2025 if a textile EPR scheme was already in place. Otherwise, they will start when the national measures come into force. In all cases, these obligations must apply by the 17th of April 2028 at the latest. As a result, implementation is expected to take place progressively across the European Union as member states establish or adapt their national textile EPR systems. What will textile producers need to do? The Textile EPR rules apply to producers of the textile-related and footwear products listed on Annex 4C. Essentially, it covers anyone putting textiles or footwear onto the EU market for the first time. We're talking about manufacturers, importers, brands, and online retailers. This includes businesses selling directly to EU end users via distance selling channels. There are also important exclusions. The definition of producer does not include operators that supply used products fit for reuse, products derived from used or waste products, or, for example, self-employed tailors producing customized products. Register in each member state where products are first placed on the market. Each member state must establish a register of producers. Producers will need to apply for registration in every member state where they may cover textile-related or footwear products available on the market for the first time. A producer will only be allowed to place covered products on a member state's market if they are listed in that country's register. Where applicable, that same registration requirement falls onto the designated authorized representative for EPR. There is one important distinction. Companies selling from another EU country must appoint an authorized representative in the member state where they are selling their products. For companies based outside the EU, member states can decide whether that representative is required. Entrust a producer responsibility organization. Under the new rules, producers will need to join a producer responsibility organization, or PRO, which will fulfill their Textile EPR obligations on their behalf. PROs will be at the heart of the system. They will manage EPR obligations on behalf of producers. Depending on the scheme, they may take on financial responsibilities only, or both financial and operational responsibilities. PROs must also be authorized by the competent authority. Finance collection, sorting and treatment. Producers must cover the costs linked to the management of used and waste textile-related and footwear products covered by Annex 4C. These costs include the collection of used products for reuse and the separate collection of waste products for preparing for reuse and recycling. These costs also cover transport, sorting, preparation for reuse, recycling, other recovery operations, and disposal. In addition, producers must finance the collection, transport and treatment of waste managed by social economy entities and other actors that are part of the collection system. Producers must also fund a number of additional activities. These include compositional surveys of mixed municipal waste, information campaigns for consumers, and data collection and reporting. They must also support research and development to improve product design, prevent waste, and enhance waste management in line with the waste hierarchy. Member states may also require producers to cover, partially or totally, the cost associated with covered products ending up in mixed municipal waste. Prepare for eco-modulated fees. Producer financial contributions must be based on the weight and, where appropriate, the quantity of products concerned. For textile-related and footwear products, producer fees must also take eco-design requirements into account. These requirements are set under the eco-design regulation. Member states may also take fast fashion and ultra-fast fashion business models into account when setting EPR fees. They may consider factors such as how long products are designed to last, whether they can be used by more than one owner, and how effectively textile waste is turned into raw materials for new products. Provide data and reporting. Reporting will be a core part of the system. At least once a year, PROs must publish key performance data while respecting commercial and industrial confidentiality. They must report on product placed on the market, collection volumes, reuse and recycle performance, recovery and disposal outcomes, and exports of both reusable and used products and waste. For smaller producers, reporting is simpler. If a company has fewer than 10 employees, an annual turnover and balance sheet totals of no more than €2 million, the PRO must request only information on the amount of products placed on the market for the first time, including their weight. Also, the directive introduces specific controls for online sales and fulfillment services. And that's it for today's workshop on extended producer responsibility for textiles in the EU. To recap, through the revised Waste Framework Directive, all member states are now required to establish EPR schemes for textiles and footwear, making producers responsible for contributing to the collection, reuse and recycling of textile waste. While implementation will take place gradually over the coming years, businesses should already be preparing for a new compliance landscape across Europe. Thank you very much for joining us. See you next time. Stay tuned.